One of those services that you mentioned, we talked about the housing shortage in Burlington, but Section 8 housing is one of the services. And the waiting list in Burlington for the vouchers used to be 2 years, and now it's up to 4 years. And that's an enormous time for someone who needs housing to have to wait 4 years to get a Section 8 voucher. I would think that the stimulus package from Washington or something might have helped that program instead of going from 2 years to 4 years. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's just another example of when on the state level and federal level we see cuts. This is, it's larger than just the last year, of course, because we had 8 years of an administration that constantly cut back on a federal level on these types of programs, and we're still seeing the aftermath of that. I mean, I think the waiting list is growing because of shortage of funding for the last several years, not just because of what's happened necessarily in the last year. But I think on a local level, Burlington again has done a lot of innovative things around affordable housing, and we have some opportunities that are really kind of on the horizon in Burlington. So I think the city needs to be proactive on making sure that happens, so that we're constantly continuing to put together innovative new sites for affordable housing locations. For example, the Catholic diocese is selling the land on North Avenue, and that's up a huge amount of land and great location. So I don't know per se how the city is involved. I'm sure there's been some discussions, but really looking at those opportunities is something Burlington needs to do to make sure that we are first in line, if at all possible, when opportunities like that come up, so that we're putting housing front and center. Further out of North Ave, the redevelopment of the old Department of Motor Vehicle site for more senior affordable housing is another good example of kind of innovative thinking and good partnership that uses existing space and puts in some housing that hopefully will help transition seniors who are currently in houses, especially out in the New North End, into an affordable place without having to change their community completely, and maybe free up more housing stock for other folks to kind of help take the pressure off. But specifically for Section 8 housing, I think that's and those vouchers, that is something that we have constantly underfunded. And the reality is that people, that doesn't even reflect the people on these waiting lists. Does not even reflect the people between the gap of qualifying for the voucher and being able to really afford whatever the current rates are. So there's this other gap of people who are struggling, just as much as the people waiting for those vouchers. So there's a lot we need to do, and I think, frankly, having better state leadership that advocates for the needs of Vermonters to the federal level, so we get more funding and we get kind of real about the needs of people in terms of housing, is the only way that we're really going to make a big change on that level. Because Burlington and other communities in Vermont can make small changes, but to really shift that and support the people who need it, I think it's going to take changes on some bigger levels in Burlington.
You were speaking about state legislative initiatives and the need for leadership in the state level. We do have at least one or several progressive representatives in the House. Not enough to really influence everything, but there was a bill introduced by David Zuckerman, H516. I believe it was introduced in December, and it says this bill proposes to require the Department of Information and Innovation to advise against the acquisition by a state agency of proprietary software or software that operates by means of proprietary protocols when acceptable functionality can be achieved with open source software and open standard protocols, and to ensure that the expected total life cycle costs of software are fully evaluated prior to acquisition. There's something called free open source software, FOSS, and this is a wonderful idea, I think, a wonderful initiative. Last year at the NPA in Wards 2 and 3, we had a resolution voted to introduce a similar bill in the City Council. That instead of sending money to Microsoft for expensive software programs, we can get all of that for free on the internet and use it with a Linux system. I have that here on my my netbook, and it works wonderfully well. Has there been any progress at the City Council level on that, or is there any prospect for a future development?
Well, for the 10 months I was on, I hadn't seen any movement on this, but I think it's a great idea, and certainly something that would be great to have from a coalition of the Old North End councilors. And I'm sorry that I didn't hear about this last year because, as I said, I really like to move things on the council. I'm certainly not the type of counselor, or would be the type of counselor, again, who just sits back and waits for whatever issues to come up and votes on it then. I really like to initiate things, especially if it's forward thinking like this, because this would obviously probably disproportionately impact people in the Old North End to have access to this kind of open source type of technology. And I think it's the other thing why this is exciting is it's really thinking outside the box in terms of all the expenses and the barriers to people having good access to technology, and knowing the importance of how technology can really advance people, to help be able to have, to be able to even afford a computer. If you have good software and access to something that's not only affordable but even potentially free, that's going to help people be able to prepare resumes and all sorts of things to really move forward in an innovative way. And while there, in terms of technology, there was a resolution introduced about this concept of putting a laptop in every house, to me, something like this is a lot more workable than this concept of kind of just really a little bit pie in the sky, I think, about just suddenly giving laptops to every single person and not taking into account the cost of software or the cost of internet hookup or other barriers that might be in place to get every single person a laptop in the city. I think this is a more reasonable step in the way of supporting people who have it now, or computer access now, and/or I was really big about trying to support our community centers like our school and library to have good technology so that people could access that in our community centers as well in the schools. So this would be great, and I would love to follow up on this and see what we can do next year.
We actually passed a resolution at the NPA
Great.
in favor of this, and I gave David a DVD with some of the software on it, and I had hoped that he would, as a city councilor, he would, from Ward 2, that he would introduce something, but I guess he wasn't interested.
Yeah, I never heard about that. So, Terry, let's follow up on that, especially because if it came out of the MPA, I love that part of city government, and I want to empower the MPAs to feel like, if they do something, if they initiate a resolution, that the councilors at the very least will do something with it, or at least say it doesn't work because can we tweak it so this can actually be successful. So we'll tuck this away for later.
And it's not just software for individual people, but for instance, the bill at the state level, there are an enormous number of computers in all the state departments, and if you count the amount of money sent to Microsoft and the amount of savings possible, it's an enormous saving on the state budget. And I think probably in the city too, the city offices have computers, and the schools and the libraries, as you mentioned. Yep. And if you count the saving from each one of those computers, it could really add up.
Well, that alone, I mean, in the budget process, I did ask last year because, I think I'm of a generation that has a different relationship with technology, and it is frustrating to me to see how our city hasn't really been very efficient in our use of technology. Because if you log on to the city website and you click on any particular department, almost several departments have different web servers, they have different layouts, they have different everything. And so to me, there's a lot of duplication of not only probably computer programs, but efforts to kind of represent the city and make the city accessible through technology that is unnecessary. And I think there's so many free programs all over the web these days, including what you've kind of outlined here, that we could be much smarter about not only what we're paying for, but how we are making ourselves available to residents in terms of accessibility through our website and through technology in general. So that is actually something that, it was interesting after coming off the council and becoming a regular citizen again, and the inability to easily access information through city government about when a committee meeting was meeting, as now as a regular citizen, since I didn't have, the privilege of council communication from departments. It was a good reminder that this is really something we have to work on. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was trying to track down when the ordinance committee was meeting when I was a regular citizen again, and not being able to find the agenda or not being able to find anything mentioned on the website anywhere. I mean, to me, in 2010, we really can do a whole lot better. And I think partly it's going to take the initiative of city councilors to really make that a priority for the city, because we can just do a whole lot better and probably save a lot more.